All right, number 3, let's just call this one please, because once again, there are times when before you can intellectually process a thing, sometimes it just hits you on an emotional level that you probably need to grapple with before you can put it into words. It's not always possible. The word says there are times when we're praying and we might try to grasp for the depths or the heights of our vocabulary, and we're just not going to be able to get it because there are levels on which we need the Spirit to intercede and pray beyond what our words can really capture. And so when I read this about Moses going back through that portion of time when Sihon and Og, 2 kings that are mentioned over and over again as high points of Israel's history, 2 of their early victories, 2 of their great victories, but they're also 2 victories that come with a bittersweet undertone. When Moses realizes that he's getting close enough to the promised land to really want it more than he might have as they were approaching from further away. And so he's going to flat out just say to God, please let me go in. And in these first 4 chapters, he's going to say that at least 3 times. If not in those exact words, he's going to remember and tell the people that because of what has happened, I'm not going to get to go in either. So God willing, on an emotional level, when I just said it right there, reminded me of times when I've missed opportunities. And if you've lived for very long, you've probably missed opportunities. And so you may know what it's like to have regret. And so in this particular passage, before I could put it into words, I had to process what I was seeing in Moses' story, what reminded me of times that I've lived through, but even beyond me, just hoping to be able to really feel for what Moses was going through. But even more, understanding that, even though it's kind of a bittersweet moment, we remember that on the Mount of Transfiguration, he still gets to see it. And he doesn't just get to see it, he gets to be there with Jesus and Elijah. As Peter is so stunned, he wants to build tabernacles or structures to honor all 3. But understand, before that, Moses, he doesn't necessarily know what's going on when he's getting this answer from God. And it has to seem at least a little bit ironic that he's interceded on behalf of people who God was going to kill more than once. As we mentioned before, when God sums it up in Numbers chapter 14, he says, these 10 times they have tested him. And Moses intercedes, and God spares them, even though it takes 10 times before he denies them the promised land. Moses didn't get 10 times. So what did that have to seem like when after all of this time serving God on a trip he didn't want to make, all he has to do is disobey really once or maybe twice if you go back to him not getting his kids circumcised, to lose out on his attempt to get into the promised land? It couldn't have seemed fair. And so how do you continue to go on serving God in a situation where you've poured yourself out that much for people who get to keep sinning at that level before they finally lose out? Whereas with you, you stumble a couple of times and you seem like you lose out just as much, if not more, understanding all that he suffered to get there. The 2 stints of 40 days going without food, one of which to keep God from killing the people. And so understand this. The great thing that I see in Moses here is the fact that God, before this chapter ends up, tells him, no, you're not going to get in. More importantly, you're going to have to prepare Joshua because he's the one who's going to get him there. And the thing I love about Moses is we get to see more of his sacrifice. See, he was rich in the kingdom of Egypt, but he couldn't be satisfied as long as he saw the Israelites mistreated. And likewise now, he's going to put his pain aside to get Joshua prepared, as God is literally going to tell him, charge Joshua, encourage him, and strengthen him. And that's exactly what Moses is going to do. And so if we can take away anything from this, it's on the one hand, you're blessed in life if you have people who can put away their pain to help prepare you for the walk ahead. But likewise, if you know what it's like to be blessed enough to have people who can put away their disappointment to help you, what kind of people should you and I be then when we have pain and disappointment in our lives, but we have other people who need our help? And so in Moses, I see an example of a man who, in spite of his great disappointment, is able to keep the mission in mind. And likewise, I pray that we be encouraged that no matter how disappointed we might be with missed opportunities, we see the big picture in terms of people who we can help to make sure that they don't miss theirs.